what you did. You need to leave.
Hey, that's enough. Stop right there.
The hand came out of nowhere. 1 second Gloria Mae Washington was loading her groceries into the trunk of her old Camry, and the next, a young woman with red nails and a white BMW was standing 2 inches from her face. You scratched my car. Gloria looked at the BMW. She looked at her own car. She looked at the woman, young, expensive, and mean in the particular way that beautiful people with too much money sometimes were. I didn't touch your car, sweetheart. Don't sweetheart me. I saw you. People were slowing down. Phones were coming out. Gloria felt the heat rise in her chest, but she kept her voice even. She was 61 years old. She had buried a husband at 53, raised 2 children by herself, and survived 23 years of teaching 6th grade in Chicago public schools. She was not going to be undone in a Walmart parking lot on a Tuesday afternoon. Then you saw wrong. The young woman's hand shot up. It never landed. A larger hand caught her wrist in the air, quiet, unhurried, and completely certain, like catching a falling glass before it hits the floor. That's enough. The voice was low, accented, the kind of voice that didn't need to be raised to be heard. Gloria turned. Her new neighbor was standing there. She had seen him exactly twice since he moved in 3 weeks ago. Once when the moving truck blocked her driveway and she had gone over to complain, and he had simply looked at her with those dark, unreadable eyes and said he would handle it, and somehow that was the end of the conversation. The second time was when she saw him standing on his porch at 6 in the morning, coffee in hand, staring at nothing, looking like a man carrying something heavy in a place no one could see. His name was Sungjin. That was all she knew. The young woman snatched her wrist back and looked at him the way people look at something they cannot quite categorize. Who are you? Nobody, Sungjin said. Drive away. Something in his voice made the decision for her. She got in her BMW and she drove away. Just like that. No argument. No final word. Just gone. The crowd that had gathered dissolved like sugar in water. Gloria stood there holding a bag of groceries and trying to decide how she felt. Thank you, she finally said, because her mother had raised her right even when her pride fought against it. Sungjin looked at her for a moment. You had it handled. I did, she agreed. Something shifted in his face. Not quite a smile. Something quieter than that. He picked up 2 of her grocery bags from the cart without asking and carried them to her trunk. She wanted to tell him she was perfectly capable. She didn't. She watched him place them down with the same careful certainty he seemed to do everything with, and she thought that this man had lived a very particular kind of life, the kind that taught you exactly how much force to use and when. She didn't ask. He didn't offer. He closed her trunk and walked back to his own car. That was the second time they spoke. Before we go any further, can I ask, where are you watching from today? Drop your city, your state, your country in the comments right now. We have viewers from all over the world on Afro-Korean love tales, and every single location makes this community more beautiful. Tell us where you are watching from. The third time was different. It was a Saturday 2 weeks after the parking lot, and Gloria was on her front porch with her Bible and her second cup of coffee when she heard it. A child crying. Not the normal kind of crying that children do when they want something. The kind that comes from real fear. She was off her porch before she made the conscious decision to move. It was coming from next door. From Sungjin's house. She knocked hard. The crying stopped abruptly. The way sounds stop when someone is trying to hide them. The door opened. Sungjin stood there. Behind him, pressed against his leg and staring up at Gloria with enormous wet eyes, was a little boy. No older than 4. Dark hair. Round cheeks still shining with tears. Gloria looked at Sungjin. Sungjin looked at Gloria. He had a nightmare, Sungjin said. There was something almost helpless in his voice. Like a man who knew how to handle every situation except this one. Gloria looked at the little boy. What's his name? Minjun. She crouched down to the boy's level without asking permission. Minutjun. My name is Miss Gloria. Did something scary visit you in your sleep? The boy stared at her. Then he nodded very slowly. You know what I tell scary dreams? Gloria said. I tell them they have the wrong address. This house has too much love in it for scary things to stay. Minjun blinked. Then he looked up at his father. Sungjin was watching Gloria with an expression she couldn't read. He hasn't eaten, Sungjin said quietly. It was not quite a question. It was not quite a request. It landed somewhere in the middle. The way a proud man asks for help without quite letting himself say the words. Gloria straightened up. She looked at this man standing in his doorway, broad-shouldered, guarded, wearing the particular loneliness of someone who had chosen to carry everything alone for so long that he had forgotten there was another way. I have chicken and rice on the stove, she said. Both of you come. Sungjin opened his mouth. Don't argue with me, Gloria said. I'm 61 years old and I taught school for 23 years. I know what a hungry child looks like, and I know what a tired man looks like. Komeit. He came. And that was how it started. Not with romance. Not with stolen glances or racing hearts. It started with chicken and rice on a Saturday afternoon. And a 4-year-old boy who ate 3 bowls and fell asleep on Gloria's couch while a Korean man she barely knew sat at her kitchen table and slowly, carefully, like a man disarming something dangerous, began to talk. His wife had died 2 years ago. Cancer. Fast and brutal and without mercy. He had brought Minjun to America because Korea held too many shadows. He had a sister in California. He was trying to figure out what came next. He did not tell her what he used to do. She did not ask. But she was a woman who had spent 23 years reading children. Reading the ones who came to school hungry. The ones who came carrying secrets. The ones who smiled too carefully. And she knew how to read the weight a person carried even when they were trying to put it down. She knew this man had not always lived quietly. She served him more rice. If you are new to this channel, this is Afro-Korean Love Tales, where love has no borders, no age limits, and no apologies. If this story is moving you, if you are feeling every single word, please hit that subscribe button right now. This channel runs on your support, and every subscriber brings us closer to bringing you more stories like this one. Subscribe, like this video, and share it with someone who needs to believe that love is still possible. The weeks that followed had a rhythm Gloria hadn't expected. Sungjin was not an easy man. He was quiet in the way that still water is quiet. Deep and with things moving underneath that you couldn't always see. He didn't make small talk. He didn't laugh easily. He had a way of looking at you that made you feel like he was deciding something important, and you weren't always sure what the verdict was. But he showed up. That was the thing about him. He showed up in the small ways that Gloria had learned, over 61 years of living, mattered more than the grand gestures. He shoveled her walkway after the first snow without being asked. He carried her trash bins back from the curb every Thursday. When her car wouldn't start one morning, he was at her window before she had finished calling the roadside service. And he fixed whatever needed fixing with his hands and a silence that felt more like conversation than most conversations she had ever had. Minjun had decided Gloria was his person. This happened the way these things always happen with small children, suddenly and completely, and without any regard for the adults' opinions on the matter. He started appearing at her door after preschool with drawings he had made for her. He called her Miss Glow. He fell asleep on her couch so often that she put a small blanket there specifically for him, folded on the armrest. And when Sungjin came to collect him in the evenings, he would stand in her doorway and look at his son sleeping, and something would move across his face that he never quite managed to hide in those unguarded moments. Gloria told herself she was simply being neighborly. She told herself this firmly and often. She was 61 years old. She was a grandmother. She had a quiet life that she had built carefully after the chaos of grief. And she was not the kind of woman who got swept up in things. She told herself this on the evening Sungjin stayed for dinner, without either of them quite planning it. And they sat on her back porch after Minjun was asleep, and talked until midnight. Really talked. The kind of talking that happens when two people stop being careful with each other. She told herself this the night he told her, quietly and without drama, what he used to be, what he used to do, the men he had led, the life he had lived. He told her the way a man tells the truth when he has decided the person across from him deserves it. And she listened the way she had always listened. Completely, without flinching, without running. When he finished, there was a long silence. "Are you afraid of me?" he asked. Gloria looked at him for a long moment. "I'm afraid of losing people I care about," she said. "I'm not afraid of who they used to be." He nodded slowly, like a man who had been waiting for someone to say exactly that. They sat in the quiet of her porch for a long time after that. The Chicago night was cold and clear, the kind of cold that makes everything feel sharp and real. Somewhere down the street a dog barked twice, and then went quiet. A car passed. The porch light threw a warm circle around them both. Gloria thought about her late husband James. About how she had loved him, steadily, completely, the way you love someone when you have decided they are worth the risk of loss. She had not expected to ever sit in the dark with a man again, and feel something unlocking in her chest. She was not ready to name what she was feeling, but she was honest enough with herself to stop pretending she felt nothing. Sungjin looked at her. Just looked at her, the way he sometimes did, like she was something he was still figuring out, something that kept surprising him. "Gloria May Washington," he said quietly. "You are not what I expected." She laughed softly. "Neither are you," she said. And that was enough. For that night, that was everything. The morning Gloria found out, she sat on the edge of her bathroom sink for a very long time. The test was in her hand. Pink lines. 2 of them. Unmistakable. She was 61 years old. She had 3 grandchildren. She had a retirement pension. She had a Tuesday morning Bible study group, and a standing appointment at the hair salon every 3rd Saturday, and a life that had finally, after years of grief and rebuilding, settled into something that felt like peace. And she was pregnant. She put the test down on the counter very carefully, the way you put down something that might shatter, and she looked at herself in the mirror for a long time. The woman looking back at her had laugh lines in silver at her temples and eyes that had seen enough of life to know that it never, ever went according to plan. "Lord," she said quietly, "you have a sense of humor." She didn't tell Sungjin that day, or the next. She made an appointment with her doctor instead, because she was a practical woman, and she needed to understand what she was dealing with before she could deal with anything else. Her doctor, a calm woman named Dr. Patricia Osei, who had been her physician for 11 years, looked at the results and then looked at Gloria and then looked at the results again. "It is extremely rare," Dr. Osei said carefully, "but it is not impossible. There are documented cases of natural conception at your age. Your body," Gloria, "has apparently not read the textbooks." Gloria laughed. It came out a little wild. "Is the baby healthy?" Dr. Osei looked at her with the particular gentleness of a woman delivering news that is both miracle and earthquake at the same time. "So far, yes," she said. "But we need to monitor this very carefully. This is a high-risk pregnancy. Your age means we need to watch everything. Your blood pressure, the baby's development, everything." "But Gloria, the heartbeat is strong." Gloria drove home in silence. She sat in her driveway for 20 minutes before she went inside. She did not sleep that night. Now let us pause right here, because if you are watching this and your mouth is open right now, good. That means the story is doing exactly what it is supposed to do. And if you have not subscribed to Afro-Korean Love Tales yet, this is your sign. Hit that subscribe button right now. This channel cannot be monetized without your subscription, and every single one counts more than you know. Subscribe. Like this video. Share it with your sister, your mother, your best friend. Let them know that love does not have an expiration date. She told him on a Thursday evening. Min-jun was asleep on her couch under his blanket, one small fist curled under his chin. And Sungjin was sitting at her kitchen table, with a cup of coffee going cold in front of him. He had been quiet all evening. Quieter than usual, which was saying something. And Gloria had been moving around her kitchen pretending to be busy when she was really just trying to find the words. There were no good words for this. She sat down across from him. "Sungjin," she said. He looked up. She put the test on the table between them. He looked at it. He looked at her. He looked at it again. The silence stretched out so long that Gloria started to hear her own heartbeat. Then Sungjin said, very quietly, "I'm pregnant." Those were the words she had said to Dr. Osei almost as a question, as if saying them out loud would make them more real. And now she was saying them to him and watching his face and trying to read what was happening behind those dark, careful eyes. His hands were flat on the table. Still, the way his hands always were, controlled, deliberate. But something was moving in his face. Something large and unguarded that he wasn't quite managing to keep down. How, he said. And then he stopped. Because he knew how. That was not really the question. The real question was what now? Gloria folded her hands in front of her. She had decided, in the long sleepless night before this moment, that she was not going to apologize. She was not going to shrink. She was 61 years old and she had not planned this, and she was terrified, and she was also, underneath all of it, underneath the fear and the shock and the sheer impossibility of it, she was also filled with something that felt dangerously like wonder. "I am not asking you for anything," she said. "I want you to know that. I am telling you because you have the right to know. But I have already decided that I am not afraid and I am not ashamed, and whatever comes next I will handle it the way I have handled everything else in my life. On my feet." Sungjin looked at her for a very long time. Then he stood up from the table. He walked around to her side and he crouched down in front of her chair so that he was looking up at her, and his eyes were level with hers. And this man, this former Korean mafia boss who had led dangerous men and survived dangerous things and carried the weight of a whole broken life across an ocean. This man took both of her hands in his and held them like they were something precious. "Gloria," he said, "when are you going to understand that I am not going anywhere?" Her eyes filled. She had not cried yet. Not through the doctor's appointment. Not through the sleepless night. Not through any of it. But something about the way he said her name, steady and certain and like a man who had made a decision and was done reconsidering it, broke something open in her chest that had been locked for a very long time. "I am scared," she admitted. And she almost never admitted that. "I know," he said. "Me too. But Gloria," he squeezed her hands, "I have been scared before. I have faced things that should have broken me. And the only time I have ever felt something worth protecting since I lost my wife, the only time I have felt like maybe the rest of my life is not just something to survive, is when I am sitting in your kitchen or on your porch or watching my son sleep on your couch." He paused. "This is terrifying," he said. "And I would not change a single thing." She laughed through her tears. It was the most undignified she had felt in years, and she did not care at all. Minjun stirred on the couch and made a small sound, and they both looked over at him automatically. This small boy who had somehow become the bridge between two people who had no business finding each other, and had found each other anyway. "He is going to be a big brother," Sungjin said quietly, like he was still getting used to the shape of the words. "Lord help us all," Gloria said. And they both laughed, really laughed. In her quiet Chicago kitchen on a Thursday night while a 4-year-old slept 10 feet away, unaware that the world had just shifted on its axis again. The months that followed were not easy. Gloria's children did not take the news well. Her daughter Renee called 3 times in one day, her voice cycling through shock and anger, and something that sounded almost like grief. Her son Marcus drove up from St. Louis, and sat at her kitchen table with the expression of a man who had prepared a speech, and then found he couldn't remember a single word of it. They did not understand Sungjin. They did not understand what their mother was doing. They did not understand any of it. Gloria listened to all of it. She let them say everything they needed to say. And then she said very calmly, the way she had said things to 6th graders who needed redirecting, "I have heard you. I love you. And I have made my decision." Renee cried. Marcus shook Sungjin's hand stiffly on his way out. It was not warmth, but it was something. The pregnancy was monitored carefully, just as Dr. Osei had promised. There were hard days. Days when Gloria was exhausted in a way she hadn't known since her own children were small. Days when the fear sat heavy and close. Sungjin drove her to every appointment. He learned the name of every test, every measurement, everything the doctors were watching. He asked questions in that quiet, deliberate way of his, and took notes on his phone and Googled things at night when he thought she was asleep. She was never asleep. She watched him from the doorway sometimes. This complicated man sitting in her living room doing research on high-risk pregnancies at midnight. And she thought about all the things she had believed about her life. That her story was finished. That the quiet was all that was left. That 61 was too late for anything new. She thought about all the ways she had been wrong. Their daughter was born on a Tuesday morning in April. 6 pounds 4 ounces. A full head of dark curly hair that mixed her mother's and her father's into something entirely new and entirely herself. She was perfect and loud, and she arrived into the world with the kind of energy that suggested she had places to be. They named her Nia. It meant purpose. Minjun held his sister for the first time with the extreme seriousness of a 5-year-old, who understood that something important was being entrusted to him. He looked at her face for a long time. Then he looked up at Gloria. She looks like Miss Glow, he announced. Sungjin looked at Gloria over his son's head. Something moved in his eyes. Warm and quiet and absolutely certain. She does, he agreed. Gloria May Washington, 61 years old, retired schoolteacher, grandmother, and now mother again, held her daughter and her partner's son, and felt the particular fullness of a life that had refused to be finished when she thought it was. Love, she had learned, did not check your age before it arrived at your door. It did not ask whether you were ready or whether you had planned for it, or whether the timing made any sense at all. It simply showed up, sometimes in the form of a quiet Korean man with careful hands and a grieving son, and a past he was learning to put down. And it asked only one thing: whether you were brave enough to let it in. She had been brave enough. And standing in that hospital room with Nia in her arms and Sungjin's hand warm around her shoulder, and Minjun pressed against her side, Gloria May Washington understood something she wanted to pass on to every woman watching this who had ever told herself it was too late. It is never too late. Not for love. Not for joy. Not for the life you did not know you were still waiting for. If this story moved you today, if any part of Gloria's journey felt like something you needed to hear, please share it with someone who needs to believe that their story is not over. And if you are not yet part of this family, subscribe to Afro-Korean Love Tales right now. This channel exists because of you. Your subscription is not just a number, it is what keeps these stories coming. Hit subscribe, hit like, leave a comment, and tell us what part of Gloria's story hit you the hardest. We read every single one. This has been Afro-Korean Love Tales, where love has no borders, no age limits, and absolutely no apologies. We will see you in the next story.